We wanted to do more buckets this year, about 40, 45 in total. So we only have enough of these spiles and tubing from last year. So we need to make, I think we said 27 more. So that's all I'm doing. We have some tubing that we just bought. We have a box of spiles left over from when we first started. So I'm gonna cut these up to length, put the spiles in, put them in the tote, and then we'll have them all ready for when we go tap. So the tubing I'm using is a 5/16 internal diameter by a 7/16 outside diameter. So basically the internal diameter is big enough just to fit over the spile. It's a 5/16 spile. So we have the tubing that matches it so that it fits on. It's not a struggle to get them on there. Once I've done this, I got to drill all the lids out to the outside diameter, which is, I have a 3/8 bit. So that's just big enough for me to push the tubing into the lid. I still have to drill about 40 lids, and then we're also going to take those with us in our sled and have everything ready for when we go tap. And all I'm doing is I'm using the same one from last year just to match the length. I find that this length that we have, they're about just under 2 feet, probably like 20, 22 inches.
Welcome back to the channel. You guessed it, it is time to start tapping our trees. Our trees at home are running very well. It is significantly warmer there though, because we are about an hour and 45 minutes south of where we are right now. We brought up an extra 60 liters of sap from home today, which brings our total to 190 liters of sap collected already, and we haven't even hung our buckets here yet. This is the perfect weather today to be tapping our trees. The temperature today is about 3 degrees Celsius. It's supposed to get down to about -20 today. We have a cold snap tomorrow, but after that, we're in the plus degrees during the day and in the negative at night, which is exactly what you need for the sap to start running. These are the trees we marked earlier in the year, so we're up on a different part of the property this year tapping trees, and that is for a couple reasons. One, we've never used these trees before, so they've never been tapped, and we're giving our trees on the other side a break. And two, the trees over here are a lot closer together, which means we don't have to travel as far to collect the sap and dump it.
The first step into tapping a tree is first finding the tree, and second is drilling the hole. When you drill a hole, you want to be at least 3 feet up off the ground, and you want to go in at about a 45-degree angle, about 2 inches to 2.5 inches. We're using a 5/16 bit because that's how big our spiles are. So this is about 5/16 in diameter. So we'll drill the hole. Next step you want to do is once you're done drilling the hole, you're going to bang the spile in. When you put the spile in, you don't want to drive it home like you're driving a nail into a piece of wood. You just want to hit it a few times. It'll make like a solid thud like that, and that kind of lets you know how far to go. So once it's tapped in, for us, we just put the tube in the bucket, and as Holly said, it's already flowing really well. The change in temperature is what builds pressure in the tree and gets the sap to flow. So as Holly was saying, today's a perfect day, temperature-wise, and that's one of about 38 more to go.
Because we're using trees that we've never tapped before, we're not really concerned about where we're going to be putting the tap on these trees. We really care about the placement of the tap on trees that we've already tapped, because you need to keep a minimum distance away from previous holes that you've tapped in previous years. We're hanging these buckets on the tree with a nail right now, and we don't do that for every single tree. We just miscalculated with our tubing before we came up, and we were a little bit short, so we had to cut some of our 2-foot lengths into shorter chunks, which means that we had to raise our buckets off the ground, and in order to do that, we have to hang the bucket on the tree. The sap is flowing so well that you can actually hear it dripping from the tree into the bucket. As you can see, our trees are marked with orange trail tape, and we did that earlier in the year, I think back in October. We did that just so it was easy at this time of the year to identify the trees. In previous years, we've never marked the trees, and we've identified them in different ways. And the ways that you can identify a maple tree from different trees is by the pattern of the bark and also the pattern of the branches. If you're looking at the branches, obviously you can't see any leaves right now at this time of the year, but that's another way to identify them. But when you're looking at the branches, they grow opposite each other and they grow in pairs, and that's a good way to identify a maple tree from any other tree. This is our 3rd year doing syrup. So in the first 2 years, we didn't quite know exactly what we were doing, and the only way we've come to know what we're doing now somewhat is by trial and error. So in previous years when we've tapped before, we've never really tapped at the appropriate time. We've typically been too early. Today, I mean, it's safe to say we're maybe one day late even. But this is by far the best success we've had when tapping our trees. Every single tree that we've tapped so far is already running. As you can see here, we have our orange tape on this tree, but we are actually tapping this tree. This is a cedar, and you can tell that the bark is a lot different than the maple. A cedar tends to be, in my opinion, I don't know what the technical term is, but it's kind of stringy, and it kind of comes off in strips. Maple is very hard, very thick. This is almost like paper. I tied it on here though because it was a lot shorter of a piece than wrapping it around this whole tree. Because the sap is flowing so well, we're gonna have to come up here probably in a couple days to empty these buckets. Otherwise, they're gonna be full to the top, and we don't want them to overflow and lose any of the sap. Because our buckets have a hole in the top, once they get full, it'll just start coming out the lid, and we don't wanna waste any. Look at it just pouring out the tube there.
We've tapped the tree before. We know that for two reasons. One, we remember some of the trees we've tapped. And for two, there's a nail and there's another hole. When you know you've tapped the tree before, you want to be at least 6 inches away from the old hole. The reason being is if you start putting too many holes in the tree too close together, it can damage the tree, and we don't want to do that. So that's it for this side. We have a total of 35 buckets over on this side. How many do we have at the cabin?
We have 6 up there, but we have miscounted, which seems to be something we're very good at. And we have 2 buckets left. So we're gonna head back up to the cabin and add them up there because we have to cut this tubing in half.
And in full transparency, we actually marked one tree that was a basswood. I went to drill into it. The bit sailed right in there and no sap came out, so.
I don't believe it to be true because we marked them when they had leaves. I don't know what we were doing. I think we just marked the tree that our tree stand is in without even really thinking about it. We were like, oh, we'll just do this one.
We have gotten better because the last time we did a basswood tree, we actually put the spile right in the tree and then put the bucket there and walked away. At least this time, we knew right away not to put the spile in the bucket there.
Anyways, we're gonna wrap this up with the last 2 buckets and then that's it for today.
Yeah, we'll be back in a few days probably,
yeah.
3 to 4 days to come check everything.
Okay, let's go get those last 2 buckets up. We just put up our last 2 buckets down the road, so now we have a total of 47 buckets out. As we were walking by the cabin to go put the last 2 buckets out, we noticed this bucket in particular. Because we went with the yellow bucket this year, you can actually see through the bucket a lot better than you can see through the blue one. So I'm gonna open the lid and show you how much sap we've got out of this bucket in just an hour and a half. So all that sap there has collected in this bucket in less than 2 hours. So we definitely need to get up here in the next 2 days to dump these buckets or else they're gonna be overflowing.
That's it for today. We've tapped all the trees. What's the total again?
47 buckets in total, 43 up here at the cabin, and we have 4 buckets at home. Grand total, 47.
That's a lot.
I would have kept going, but Jeff said no.
Yeah, we have to learn to, put some constraint and some restraints on ourselves.
Why?
We have lots going on all the time.
I would like to do 100.
I have to be the voice of reason. Keep her in check. Otherwise, we have too much stuff to do. We already have somewhere to be. We're going to be late, so.
Yes, and on that note, we're actually heading down to our favorite bakery, which we've mentioned many times in these videos before. It's the Hidden Gold Mine Bakery in Madoc, so we'll link that below in the description. And the reason we're headed there is because they're actually going to be putting some of my soaps in their stores. So for anyone that's been watching the videos that we've been posting lately, you'll know that I've been making homemade all-natural soaps with products that are grown or harvested from our homestead. So we are going to be putting our soaps in that store as well as 4 other local stores. And I'll link the places in the description below. So if you are local to this area and you want to check it out, you know where to go. And we also have a website that should be live in the next few weeks, and we will link that shortly once it's up and running. Currently, that website will be featuring other homemade items. Aside from soaps, there will be beeswax, lip balm, cast iron skillet seasoning, and a bunch of other things that I'm not going to give away just yet. And we hope to be having syrup on there this year. So if you are interested in some syrup, we will have the website up and running before then, and we will be offering shipping.
All that being said, make sure you stay tuned for the next couple of videos because we're going to be boiling all this sap. Yes. We're estimating to have probably close to 2,000 liters of sap this year, which is ridiculous. So, considering last year we had 600 liters. It basically tripled what we had. We should probably get out of here.
Yeah, we got to get going. But thanks for watching and coming along on this one, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Bye.